there, friends. Welcome in. This is Rates and Barrels. I'm Chris Welsh. That is Eno Saris. We are glad to have you here as the season is coming to a close, and we are a little bit later in the week. We said we're getting you 2 episodes a week on this final stretch, but why? Why are we here on Wednesday? Well, it's because Eno was a traveling man. So, Eno, where were you headed? Where in the world was Eno Saris this week?
Yeah, it was a tough couple of days. I am super tired. I took a red eye Sunday night to Miami, and like I cannot sleep on red eyes. Like I don't know how people do those. Like I got like a total muscle strain and like didn't sleep at all.
What
Then I
is
had
special
this,
about a red eye? I don't think I've ever taken a red eye.
like it's where you
Just a
leave
late
to the
plane?
east. Well, you leave to the east. Well, you fly through the night.
Yeah.
So you leave for the East Coast at like midnight and you arrive at like 5-6 a.m. It
I don't know.
sucks.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't. Planes in general. I'm a tall guy, so planes in general.
Yeah.
Fun.
That was part of it too. I mean, I think you might even be taller than that, but at 6'2", like I like couldn't, and I had an aisle seat, and I was like, oh.
They're banging against you. Yeah, I'm 6'4", so yeah, it's a nightmare for me.
Yeah,
so.
I thought you were telling me. So yeah, then I don't know. Then I had this advertising shoot that I did, and that I did get to Marlins Park for the first time. So that's 22 for me. How many parks have you been to?
I'm a loser. I've been to like 3 or 4. I have no travel in my world. It's really actually depressing, but
if you counted like minor league parks, you probably have.
Oh, minor league. Well, even then, even minor league parks, like going outside of Arizona, all Arizona, I've got locked down. But yeah, I mean, I was raised in Northern California, so A's, Giants, been to the Angels, been to the Diamondbacks, and that is it. That is
not even
it
Dodger,
for me.
Dodger Stadium.
Not even Dodgers. Never been to Dodger Stadium
or Padres.
Not even Padres. Nope. I know. What a loser. What a 22 for you. So let's hear it.
Well, Miami was interesting to me because it gave off real water park vibes. So first of all, it's Miami, so it's like hot and sticky, right? So that's kind of like water park, right?
Okay.
Then because it's Miami, it's indoor, and so there's echoes. So when people are talking, there's echoes, and that's totally a water park thing for me.
Oh yeah, that's like Great Wolf. Like remember when you and I like in the same week we went to like the Great Wolf
echoes?
Lodge?
Yeah, I think of a water park. I think of echoes. Like
okay.
Just like people laughing and like weird echoes, you know. And then the floor is that gray kind of sticky tape floor that you know that like it's a little bit rough, so that you have some grip when it's wet, you know.
Yep.
So, and then the color scheme is gray and blue and white. I was just like, this is a water park. It's like,
are you ready for them to give you a wristband that your credit card's attached to, and that's how you're going to order your nachos? And
yeah, I think if they ever, need to repurpose that one when they get a new one or whatever, God forbid, but they could totally turn that into a water park. Otherwise, I kind of like the vibes in terms of it had like a bit of an Art Deco white. It's very like from the outside, it's like white and soaring and arches and stuff because they had to put a place for like, I think the roof might be retractable. So like there's like all these like kind of soaring arches. I thought it was kind of cool looking from the outside. It had an interesting vibe inside. Some good food. I had a Venezuelan hot dog, which is like 14 inches and had fries on it. Like little crispy fries,
like little thin fries.
Yeah, crispy fries and mayo and relish and mustard and tomato. I mean, it's like a fully loaded thing.
What made it Venezuelan? That sounds very Midwestern. With fries and mayo, and it sounds like a poutine hot dog.
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. There's a picture on my Twitter account. It's just obviously really ridiculous. I really wish I'd gotten the arepas. Just had too much cheese, and I'm not doing cheese right now. And then they apparently had a Venezuelan steak sandwich somewhere that I missed. I walked around that thing twice.
I'm still missing what the Venezuelan is. Okay, so what game did you catch?
It was Edward Cabrera against Jose Budo.
So are we good with Edward Cabrera moving forward?
I don't know. I've always been good with him. Like, he didn't walk anybody. I mean, he walked somebody, but like it wasn't a bad command outing. I think he kept them down to 1 or 2. I think they lost in the 9th. Budo was pretty good too. So it was a good pitching matchup. Turf stadiums that have a weird vibe too, the weird look. It's that green, shimmery green grass instead of like actual grass.
Did you take any time to talk to any players while you were out there, or was it purely just hang out as a fan and enjoy?
Shoot went to like 15 minutes before the game, so I just went straight over to the game, but didn't really talk to anybody. It was fun. I mean, maybe some attendance issues. It's kind of funny for a team that was playing a division rival. I guess it was a Tuesday night or Monday night. But anyway, it was somewhere. It wasn't as bad as Oakland, no way. But more people in San Francisco, and they're making a big deal in San Francisco about attendance. A Tuesday night in San Francisco is probably like 25K. And I would guess there was about 15K, 18K at the in Marlins Stadium that night. So, but it got going a little bit once it was a Monday night and it was an early start. So, once near the end, there were fans there.
Last thing, anything good on the drinks? Did we? I
had a Miami Pale Ale. There was I think it's sorry if I get it wrong, but I think it's like Biscayne Bay Brewing or something. There's like a craft beer bar behind home plate. That had
for you
a couple of things. Yeah, I had a couple of things there. A lot of people drinking lagers out of boots. Big frosty boots.
None of what you said has felt very Miami to me. You're like, there's a hot dog with mayo on it and people are drinking out of boots. I'm like, this sounds like a
red buzz.
There
was some red buzz. Oh, okay. And like a fair amount of music. Like I think when I was in the bathroom peeing, like instead of hearing the game being broadcast in the bathroom, it was like salsa music.
Oh, hey.
People were like dancing at the urinals.
All right. I guess that bathroom is probably a lot like a water park as well. So then there you go. All right. Well, good travels. That's why the show's a little bit later out in Miami, but you're back. Yeah, if you're on the YouTube, you can see the setting in the background that Eno is back at home, which is good. And remind you guys, you can always check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rates and Barrels. You guys want to subscribe, you can watch all the videos, and you can go and pick up a subscription over at the Athletic, athletic.com/Rates and Barrels. So, if Eno decides to write an article about Venezuelan hot dogs or, Edward Cabrera, whatever it is, you'll have access to it. That's the most important thing here.
I got a fun one coming up this Friday. I took 4 questions from my son. So my 11-year-old gave me 4 questions, and I've been asking them in the clubhouse. So
to players.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really fun one. What teams have been covered? Like any name of players you can give us?
I asked the A's, Padres, Giants, and Mariners the questions.
Okay, very, very nice. Also, that Corbin Carroll article up there. Me and him as best friends were not cited in the article, so I was very disappointed. But it's a great article. People want to check that out. So, was I? I don't know if I read. I did.
I thought it'd be weird to quote my podcast co-host.
It would be, the whole thing would be weird. Someone was like, "Oh, why isn't Welsh and Corbin?" I have this bit I do where I had that. I don't know if you've seen it. I took a picture with Corbin Carroll at that signing I was a part of, and we've had people Photoshop it of like me and Corbin Carroll are best friends, and we're in front of the Grand Canyon, and we're in front of here. So people run with that bit. So they're like, "How could Welsh and Carroll not be talked about in that?" It would have been weird in general. I hope it's never acknowledged, by the way, because he would be like, "What is this?" He's the nicest guy on the planet, but Corbin Carroll would be like, "This is even weird for me."
I used you guys on background. That's a term of art in writing, which is details that you told me are in the piece.
Yeah, I did see that.
They're not attributed to somebody.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun read. You guys should go and check it out. Obviously, I have my love for that. And this article coming up actually sounds really, really fun. The questions from Kid Eno and going out there.
And Felix actually got to ask Blake Snell his 4 questions, and there's video.
Oh my God. Is there really? That's awesome. Blake's actually really good with kids. So that I bet that
he was. He was really funny.
Yeah, I've seen him. He's very funny on the backfields with kids and stuff like that. So that's very okay. So they're all things you should be locked into. We're actually going to be talking about Blake Snell here in just a second. I only want to start with this just to kind of get it out of the way. It would have been a perfect transition had I just done that. But I don't want to come back to it on the Shohei Ohtani front. Shohei Ohtani, getting into the actual stuff, had elbow surgery. So we had been living in this little space of like, when's he going to do it? When's he going to leave? Since this time, I think from when you did the show with Al to us doing it here, Shohei Ohtani cleared out his locker, went over to Japan. We knew that. And then he officially yesterday had surgery on his elbow. And the word out is that he expects to be ready for the start of the 2024 season, which you and I had kind of talked about. Will not pitch, but will be ready in 2025 to pitch. So do you have any thoughts on the surgery just fully happening? It's good to go. He's probably going to do recovery up until whenever, winter meetings or whatever it's going to be, and how he's going to attack free agency. But, is this falling along the lines of your expectations and how you're going to approach Ohtani going into next year?
Kind of. I need like, this is a little mini rant. His agent is super weird. I have to get this out here because I don't know. Did you read the announcement?
I think I cliff noted it, but I also read it like 24 hours ago. So I just remember it was like, he'll be ready to hit in 2024. So let's hear it.
Nez Balelo is his agent. And
your face.
It's so annoying.
You're ramping up.
Just give us the information. He wrote, the final decision in type of procedure was made with a heavy emphasis on the big picture. What procedure? Shohei wanted to make sure the direction taken gave him every opportunity to hit and pitch for many years to come. Thank you. That's obvious. What procedure? Said Neil Atrache, MD, who performed the procedure. The ultimate plan after deliberation was to repair the issue at hand and to reinforce the healthy ligament in place while adding viable tissue for the longevity of the elbow. What procedure was it?
Sounds like a campaign manager for a politician, by the way.
In hockey, they like upper body injury. Yes, he had an elbow surgery. Yes, you do know that we know that there are elbow surgeries, arthroscopic, full TJ, internal brace. Now, we're reading between the lines now, but this is what I expected ahead of time because of the way he was talking about when he was going to have the surgery, the fact he was still playing, and the things that we'd heard about where the tear was, that it was in a different spot. And so my initial read was that it was going to be internal brace surgery. And Will Carroll is out here writing that that's his read on the situation too. We're kind of reading between the lines with all the stuff they're saying, but internal brace, what's most interesting about internal brace, other than what it is instead of like replacing the ligament and like, Tommy John is it's like a new ligament in there and reattaching and all that. What you basically do is you put like a carbon fiber brace around inside the body, around the where the tear is. And then you spray a bunch of collagen on it to like keep it in place. And then you sew the guy up again, and they're in a like a sling for a while, and that brace hastens the recovery process. Now, people who've done this have come back 5 to 6 months later to start throwing again. If you do the math, that's early season next year.
Yeah.
They're saying he'll be able to hit without restrictions opening day 2024 and do both come 2025. But what I'm saying is there is a window for him to pitch in 2024. I'm not saying it's going to be a lot, but I think he's going to be working on it. He's going to come back to hit. And then at some point in the season, you're going to find out that he's throwing again.
Most likely scenario to help a team too might just be to do it out of the bullpen. Like, why not? Why not do short stints if you're going to be
a ton of how many innings do you have? I mean, how much can you build up? How much can you build up and stretch out while you're still hitting?
And how much would they want to stretch a guy out to 3 or 4 when you're kind of pushing a timetable? But what if you can push 25 pitches max, 1 inning, help put him in a ninth inning role? Then maybe a team that's also looking for some pseudo type of closer, or not that that's going to play any role. At the end of the day, like, I like to pretend, and I'm probably being dumb about it, I like to pretend that there will be teams that are going to be kind of cautious in wanting to give money. This is why I've brought up a couple times that, like, I don't think it's like insane to think that he might just like sign a 1 year or some type of deal where he can get out after a year or two with the Angels because of familiarity.
If he does do that, I think he definitely pitches next year.
Yeah, I like the bullpen role, but
or like something, because he's going to want to show people I can pitch.
But most likely that's not the scenario with how everything has gone down, you would expect. But I guess I look and I go, is every team going to just be cool with the arm thing and the injury and just give him the exact amount that they expected? Or is everyone going to try to get a discount? Because if there's a discount, that's where I thought maybe you do this.
Now people come to the table, and then it
Yeah,
becomes not a discount. But yeah, we talked about this a little bit, but I think that, like, if I'm thinking about this, you're risk averse, especially when you're giving someone millions of dollars and like
which is probably gonna be
300
half of
plus.
$500 million. What the deal
Yeah,
is
I
going to have to
think it
look
might
like.
not get to that because of this injury. I
But
think
see,
he
that would
might.
be the point. Like, wouldn't you want to, if that's the case, if your max now is 350 or even 4, and you think
Well,
you
I
can
think the
get
bidding
5,
starts at like 340 or 350, because what you can say is, he is at a decent age and decent athleticism and a good enough batter that, like, you'd want to sign him probably to more than the Xander Bogaerts deal, you know, and maybe as a hitter, maybe less than the Trey Turner deal as a position player, right? So let's say you'd start at 310. Maybe the bidding starts at 310, 300, 310. That's a bit where the bidding starts as him as a hitter, right? And so then it's going to be up to every team to be like, how much more are we going to pay him as a pitcher? And we talked about like Jameson Taillon. Like, let's say you throw the Jameson Taillon deal on top, 360,
I just
right?
can't imagine. I personally
What if
can't
you throw the
imagine.
Robbie Ray deal on top, 400?
I think if it's anything less than 400, whatever the deal looks like, is capped at 2 years. However it is, if it's a opt out
Oh, there's
after
like
2
some
years,
sort of team opt out or something.
I think like that team. I mean, listen to that agent who's out there. Blah, 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 the market, like they're not anything sub 500 million. I think is going to have something along the lines where there's some type of an out, and that's what I was kind of building to. It's like that's cool if he's in relief. That probably doesn't mean much for a team outside of how nice it'll be if you've got someone else in the back end of the bullpen
I
for
don't
this year
know,
that they
but
can push.
they're signing people to bigger and bigger relief deals. So if
Yeah.
let's say you just want to put Edwin Diaz on top of Xander Bogaerts, like 350, 340.
Yeah, we'll see where it is. I also do think it could still not be with the Angels. It could be with there's a lot of rumors like the Red Sox and stuff. It could be one of these teams for 2 years while he gives them a little bit of hitting, a little bit of pitching, and then you hit the market again. But we'll see where it goes either way. Like, it is kind of stupid that we're sitting in a space where we're having to still speculate about what exactly was this surgery. Like, can you give us more details? They're not, but we know he did have the surgery. And as you mentioned with Will Carroll and yourself here, that like this lines up to that surgery that you mentioned where he will be ready for spring training and without restrictions in April. So,
There's
from
a
a
good
fantasy,
piece. I think I retweeted it, or you can find it at the Injury Expert. There's a good piece he wrote about it on Substack about what that type of surgery is, why he thinks he's getting it, and what the kind of time frame is for
yeah, Will's
Ohtani.
like,
That's what he got.
he's like one of the best for that stuff. You have like early best balls. We talked about first pitch. There's like those early drafts and stuff in November.
Just draft him
No,
as a hitter.
knowing, well, that's all that I think you can, but knowing what you know now, I think best balls, he's going to be like a second or third round player, but knowing the type of offensive player that he is and that he might actually be without restrictions, where do you think he belongs in your lexicon? Because I think he could move up to the back end of the first once spring training is there and he's actually healthy and everyone realizes, oh, this is a 40-20 guy. But what would you do?
I'd be happy to take him in the second, and the back end of the first actually has some question marks in it too. So I wouldn't mind taking him after, I think, the 10th pick or so. I mean, you're already looking at like Jordan Alvarez is probably in the top 10. So him or Soto.
Yeah, I think Soto still runs. He's gonna
I'd take him.
maybe
I'd
he's
say I
less
might
injury
take
prone.
him over Soto in non-OBP leagues. Yeah,
You take Alvarez over, or
no,
no? I'm
I'd take
sorry, you said
Ohtani
Soto.
as a hitter over Soto.
Yeah, I was thinking of Alvarez for a second. Yeah, I think he's in that space. So you
Yeah.
might get some early discounts if you're doing like early drafts, but I think that's where you're heading if everything works out. And then obviously there'll be that little push of whatever team he ends up signing with and what happens there. But that's the latest around Shohei Ohtani. We mentioned Blake Snell. So not only is he getting interviewed by, it's Felix, right? Felix interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be awesome. I'm very excited to see. You got to send me that. I'm excited to see that. But I don't know if he asked him about the Cy Young race. I know he doesn't care about fantasy. Blake Snell does, but he might have just locked it up. Blake did. He went 7, struck out 10, gave up no hits. And it's, if you've ever been around Blake Snell, I have an affectionate kind of weird thing with him and the impression and some of the stuff, but like, he is a very unique individual. And I just don't think you would get this from a lot of players. And I think this also speaks to him getting paid here. But he kind of wanted to come out, because he was near 100 pitches. And as far as having a no hitter, he said last night, he said, I understand a no hitter is an amazing accomplishment. It's so hard to do. I understand that. I also understand how much I value health, which I think a sub quote could be money. It's an individual accolade. It's cool for the team. We get a no hitter, but it's cool when the bullpen comes in and you can trust them. It's the most Blake Snell comment of all time. But this is a guy that does also need to kind of think about himself for next season, because he is in for what is going to be an insane payday. And I think he just locked up the Cy Young award, though. Obviously, Justin Steele's been good. Strider struck out 11 last night as well. The walks per 9 are really weird with Snell. It's like still over 5, where none of these other guys have it. But he's going to push 250 strikeouts on the year and has an almost 2 ERA. So any thoughts you want to add to Blake Snell, the coming out of the no-hitter, the free agency, the Cy Young? What do you got on Blake?
Yeah, I got into a really long, protracted, unfun, well, I don't know, it was Friday, I forgot what day it was, discussion when I mentioned that I thought that ERA was a flawed stat to base your Cy Young voting on, partially because I think errors are the worst stat in baseball. One of my examples was that Fernando Tatis has 6 errors and Nick Castellanos has 0. They're at the same position. If you use that to think that Fernando Tatis is a worse defender in right field than Nick Castellanos, then I am sorry, you're just wrong. It's just wrong. Like I can't say it any other way. So I think errors are a really bad stat. They don't capture all of the times when a player doesn't even get to the ball. You know what I mean? And so you have these like people, if you just sort by errors overall, you get a ton of shortstops. Why? Because they get to a bunch of balls. Sometimes they make mistakes. You know what I mean? But if you have a shortstop without a lot of errors, does not mean they're good. It means maybe they're old and they don't have a good range. So I think that those two things, the fact that there's 2 factors that I don't like to use ERA. One is errors are the worst stat in baseball, and the second one is every ball in play is a team out. Now, I'm not going so far as to say that pitchers have no control over balls in play. I want to be careful that I'm not saying that completely, but I do want to say that every ball in play is a team out. There are a bunch of people who touch that ball, and every team out is some portion of responsibility of the fielders, the first baseman, the pitcher. And so therefore team outs need to be considered somewhat differently than pitcher outs, like strikeouts, for example. So that's my argument that I'm not just going to look at ERA and call it a day. The ERA race now is Blake Snell's anyway. This was when we had this discussion, Justin Steele and Blake Snell were like basically in a tie. Maybe even Steele has better, but Steele gave up 6 runs in between. The other thing I just wanted to say real quick is that if you want to say, I only care about what happened on the field, that's why I use ERA. Well, I would suggest to you use RA9 WAR. So RA9 WAR is just runs allowed per 9 innings. And the reason that it's good that it's on the WAR thing is because you can do something where you can account for innings pitched, right? WAR is a counting stat. So RA9 WAR basically takes innings and runs allowed and makes a number out of it. Guess who's number 1? Blake Snell. And the National League by RA9 WAR, which is just what happened and no fancy, playing around with the numbers, goes Blake Snell number 1, Logan Webb number 2, Justin Steele number 3, Zach Gallen number 4, Zach Wheeler number 5. I think if I had a vote right now, it would start there. There's some close ones like Webb and Steele and Gallen are all basically tied. So I might take those guys and start to look at FIP WAR, like who has more strikeouts, and sort of sort them by that. But to me, I can comment on this because I do not have an NL Cy Young vote. I cannot comment on the AL Cy Young. I would vote for Blake Snell if I had the NL Cy Young.
Okay, that's interesting because like how you were talking, I was like, oh, you're making a Justin Steele argument as you kind of were going through it, and then it turned into solidifying that because Justin Steele could walk himself into 19 wins by the end of the year. He has a sub-2 walk per 9. His ERA is great. He doesn't have remotely close to the strikeouts the other guys do. So there's always debate around it.
Snell has like 60 more strikeouts. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And then Strider obviously has even more. An interesting stat, probably everyone's seen it, but Codify had it, that Blake Snell, when you talk about, the per 9s and you talk about him going deep and you talk about the no-hitter and him not going, he has accumulated 9 total innings in the 7th inning or more this season. 7th inning or higher, he has accumulated.
I thought that was
9.
career.
No, 9 innings this season or more in the same. You actually could probably fool somebody that was a career one for Blake Snell. But it's good that you went there. I mean, I think it's kind of locked it up, but anything can happen. It's not a takeaway from any of the other guys. I actually think it's cool. It's a nice race. I don't think a lot of the other awards have races that are there to talk about. I don't think there's a lot of parity across them. There is parity on this one. I just think it pushed a little bit further, especially in one of your last 3 games. You're throwing a theoretical no-hitter, though you couldn't go beyond the 7th, but that's where
he's finishing well. Yeah, taking on the Dodgers, choosing to take on the Dodgers instead of the A's, and so there's some narrative there too. Also kind of fun. Not too many people have won an AL and an NL Cy Young. So I don't have the list.
I was about to say, who are they? Who are the people?
I'm guessing Roger Clemens. Let me see if I can just.
I'm not even sure if I could like process immediately who those people are.
Who has multiple ones? Verlander, Scherzer got one in Detroit. Scherzer has 2. I mean, Scherzer has in both leagues.
Where? Detroit and
Washington.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to think of all the places he went. I was like, where did he get the other one? Okay, so there's
Randy
one.
Johnson has Arizona and Seattle.
Okay, so there's 2.
Roger Clemens has Boston and...
I thought those have both been AL, if he had 2.
Yeah, probably. And then we're going to go back to... Oh, David Cohn has one in Kansas City.
Okay, so there's 3. So this is going to be...
I don't know if David Cohn has one. Did he have one in the Mets? I think Cohn only has 1.
So it's going to be a group of 3 people?
Yeah, maybe 3 to 5.
That's an elite group.
Sandy Koufax were the Dodgers in the American League? Oh, that's... I'm showing that I don't know something here. Sandy Koufax is listed on the American League side on MLB, so I don't know why that is. Unless the Dodgers were American League in 1963? What? I think this is just an error on their page.
Yeah, that seems like an error.
Oh, 1 award for both leagues. Yeah, so it could have only happened since 1970. So, yeah, there's not that many. Gaylord Perry has 1 in both leagues.
So we've only found 3 other players since 1970 that have done it.
So that's cool. And I think he deserves it. The other thing that I think is really cool, and this is what, once my son was done interviewing Blake, I got in a couple hits real quick, which is I noticed that Blake Snell did not have his good slider all year. For the first 2 months of the season, his slider was dropping 2 to 3 inches less than it normally did. And I asked him about that. He's like, yeah, I just got my slider back. Like I did not have it at the beginning of the season. And in a way, I think it led to both the high walk totals, but also the good season in that he was forced to really work on his curve and change. And
that change was so critical. I just remember it was like Spore and everyone was very critical of like, stop throwing that change. Like Nick Pollock, stop throwing that change. And then the change has been dominant this year. But he has this year.
Command it. But he said it wasn't command that changed for him this year. He told me that I should look up how his changeup does under 88 or under 87 and over 88. So I'll write about that at some point. He told me that killing the velo on it was huge, more so even than the command. So, yeah, he tweaked the changeup, and he was curveball, changeup, fastball for a lot of this season. And then he finally got the slider back. And that's kind of a cool thing about when you have a great season like this. There are stories where you're like, and then I had a great start, and then the second half, I got this other pitch, and all the people who'd see me in the first half were like, damn, now he's got a slider back. So that's kind of the anatomy of a Cy Young season is, things have to break right. And then you also like make an adjustment that people don't expect, and you manage to be dominant all year.
Do you think he's going to have to take a haircut on the money because he's a pitcher that can't go really beyond the sixth? Like, do you think, because I was about to ask you, like, man, is he going to get like all the money in the world? He should break records. But then at the same time, like, is he going to have to take a haircut because he's kind of a bullpen dependent pitcher as good as he is, right?
Yeah, he's not efficient. He's out in the fifth a lot. You can see it in his innings totals also that there's been a lot of injury. He's had the other Cy Young was at 180, and this year's going to be 180, and then every other season probably averages out to 120 or so. So he's going to give you, if you sign him for 5 years, he's probably going to give you 120s in 4 of those years and 180 in one of those years. That's the math on his career so far. And so I don't think he's going to get the entire bag. But I do think that he's coming off a better sort of platform than Kevin Gossman and Robbie Ray. So I do think he's going to do better than the 110 and 5 that they got. I don't know if somebody's going to give him 6 with his injury history, but maybe like 6 and 150. I don't think there's
low.
no way there's things low, you think?
I mean, I kind of thought you got a dual Cy Young winner
deal, 180.
I was thinking like he's a $200 million pitcher, but maybe, I mean, with the market, like who else is out there? Ohtani's not out there anymore.
There's not that much. You're right. The market may push him further.
I feel like the Giants would have been a team, the Rangers, like somebody would unload.
But he's not going to get like a Garrett Cole deal, because Garrett Cole was like healthy, great track record, like different age, just impeccable results. So like, I don't think he's going to go as far as the Garrett Cole deal.
Okay. Well, we'll see what it is. Interesting stuff. You'll have some more fun off-season stuff that people can take apparently not just read, but also listen to. I'm excited to see all that stuff. That's Blake Snell. Some injury stuff that's floating out there. Detroit Tigers outfielder Riley Green is having surgery on his right elbow on Wednesday. He's out for the year. This is out for the year season, and it was a pretty good, there's a pretty good bounce in there, like 3 months, 2 months of Riley Green. And man, we're turning it around. Like Spencer Torkelson has taken all of that. It's funny because I thought those guys were trending in the same direction. I think Riley Green in the offseason is going to be probably a decent amount less expensive than Spencer Torkelson now, just because of the injuries, and the counting stats didn't look like a monster, but he definitely on a full season looks like he could be one of those guys that's going to be a nice late value as far as outfielders go. Like Torkelson is probably going to push top 100 value. Riley Green probably won't do that, but I don't even know if you were a big Riley Green guy this year.
I did. I think I bold predict him into 25 homers, which is too bad because he with a full season, maybe he could have done it. But I think next year I would try to buy him as a 275, 2010 guy.
Yep.
And that's not something that I don't think that's something that'll get pushed too high. That's like in a 12 teamer, that's like maybe a bench pick,
Yeah. So there's some value there.
But in shallower, but it definitely has upside beyond if he's just healthy all season and another level clicks. There's the possibility that he makes a little bit more contact and makes a little bit more out of his barrels. But he hits the ball really hard and has shown pretty decent eye and is an athlete. So those are the types of players I like to pick up.
I'd love to hear you reporting about like him doing the Lars Nootbaar type of stuff, just like get really like break in analytical about your approach with the big hard hit numbers, like learn to barrel those big hard hits even more and make bigger impact. But something to monitor with Riley Green. Another IL stint, which probably ends the year. Orioles plays Ryan Mountcastle on the 10-day. retroactive to the 17th, so I suppose we still could get back with it. He had a left AC joint inflammation, and what that has done is open up an opportunity for Ryan O'Hearn, who has actually been pretty good, and Heston Kjerstad, who just hit his second homer the other day. And if you had to pick one of those guys to kind of ride out for this last like 10 days, are you going to go with the rookie? I think there's 10 to 11 potential games between like Thursday and next week that the Orioles can play. I don't know how much either one of them are going to like eat into each other, but Kjerstad or Ryan O'Hearn with Mountcastle out.
It's interesting because they're both lefties. I'm going to just go with O'Hearn. He's having a really underrated season with a 22% strikeout rate, really solid all year. Definitely think if you had the choice as a manager, between this 30-year-old guy who's, reliably getting on base and having one of the best seasons of his career versus, depending on a rookie who's striking out a fair amount, I think you're going to go with O'Hearn. But I did want to point out that I saw something post conversation with Al Melchior about Heston Kjerstad's minor league barrel rates. Now, if anybody knows where I can get minor league barrel rates, please let me know, because I saw somebody on Twitter saying that he had elite minor league barrel rates. I have always tried to approximate barrel rates by saying something like Heston Kjerstad has a 42% hard hit rate at AAA, a 113.5 max EV, and a 38% ground ball rate. I would assume that somebody like that has a good barrel rate. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because they're hitting the ball hard and they're putting it in the air. But I've never seen an actual barrel percentage number when it comes to a minor leaguer. So that's something that I would be very interested in seeing. What we are seeing with Heston at the major league level is that he's only put 8 balls into play, and 3 of them are barrels. And so he has an insane hard hit rate of 88% and a barrel rate of 38%. Were that to continue, he would be the best hitter in baseball
of all time, ever.
Yeah, right.
The greatest hitter that's ever lived. But
I'll still take O'Hearn in the short term. I find Heston capacity. What we talked about, I'd love to get your input on how you see Heston, because I mentioned Tom Trudeau's scouting the stat line said it doesn't like him because he only had a 116 WRC plus as a 24-year-old in AAA. Other analysts have mentioned that it's not his fault. He's 24. It was myocarditis and some other stuff. That he's had better success at other levels. I thought, liked Heston by the eye test at the Fall League.
Yeah, I'm that's fine, whatever the numbers are going to say on that. But yeah, I'm in lockstep with. I saw some of this discourse and the arguments that were going online, which is really made, by the way, like there's a lot of fantasy baseball Twitter and prospect Twitter that is unbearable, and people are becoming unbearable. And it's one of the better approaches sometimes is maybe just to find your people and don't get into the discourse and just get out of the negativity. And for some reason, some of these guys bring it up, and Kjerstad is one of those players. But I'm in the camp of like, I've seen him a bunch, and there was some serious medical stuff. His almost entire first season being drafted was taken out. And then there's, I talked with Royce Lewis about, this was 2019 or whatever, how 1 month of injury set his entire season back, where it was like, it was in spring training, he hurt his wrist, and then he was spending his first couple months of the season as kind of a spring training approach, but without the coaching. And then the confidence level came back. And it's like, you deal with, I think it was 2 different medical things that Heston Kjerstad was having. I think that's serious enough. And then getting him in the Fall League, it was MVP. I mean, he was barreling everything. He shows weird speed. He hit a inside the park homer in the AFL. He did it here this year again. He barrels up the ball. He's got this big front. It's actually kind of like Royce, the big front leg kick that generates this massive power. And there's some swing and miss in the game, but Kjerstad also does barrel up the ball and hits it incredibly hard, and has a big, and you could see that in the AFL, and it extended over to this year. So the argument, if people are kind of wondering, becomes about more long-term, because I think there's a lot of things that obviously you want to weigh it over multiple years. And if you were to only weigh it over this year, the argument for some of the people, some of these people are that like, well, yeah, sure, he'd be great if you did it this year. But if you look at all of it, and it's like, well, I think this is one of those instances where you kind of have to take back the all of it a little bit, because, you know, that first season back was his first professional season off of a major injury and missed time. I think that has to be accounted for. And if you do weight what's happening right now, he was killer this year. I mean, he hit almost 300 at both levels, at AA and AAA. I don't care about the age. The strikeouts have cut down. The walk rates are up there. The hard hit numbers are there. And then he's hitting over 300 in only a couple games in the major leagues. Like, all of this to me is a very good push for Heston Kjerstad. Is he going to be elite? Probably not. Does he have 30 home run potential? Yep. He absolutely does. And he has a potential to hit for a high batting average, as he's doing it in the majors, did it in the minors this year. So yeah, I mean, I'm not spouting off a whole lot of craziness that, you know, of projected numbers and stuff like that. I could see where projections might not like him, but I do believe if you were to get some of those minor league numbers, which are hard to get sometimes, you would see a high barrel percentage. You probably see a 15 to 20% barrel percentage. You know, the hard hit numbers are there. And he's a pretty hard worker, and he's in an organization that's doing a pretty good job with a lot of these hitters. So those are some like slight caveats to me that are like, yeah, I think this is kind of an exciting guy. I don't see any, and I'm sorry, I'm going on about this, but I also don't see like a value in trading him right now. I don't think his value is up enough where you'd be like, oh, you get out from under him now. I actually think a full off season off of the majors could be one of the best things for him going into next year. And I think he can build off of this next year.
You have to think also like what it means to say sell high. Like, you know, is Heston Kjerstad like, you know, showing up anywhere as a top 5 prospect on any list? No. So you're not gonna like capitalize on, you know, a bunch of people being over their skis on Heston Kjerstad. Really,
what you can capitalize on.
One guy in your league loves him maybe a little bit more than they should, or something.
Now, what you can capitalize on is if he
is a little bit older.
Yeah, if there's a bunch of, I just think the
bunch of sleeper articles about him or something.
I think the age is just kind of irrelevant a little bit here, but you could also argue that it's like, well, none of these things are ever irrelevant when you build this into math, and that's totally fine. Right. One thing you can't take advantage of is if there's a whole bunch of people like me that are believers, and then someone listens and they're like, oh, okay, well, 7 of these analysts that I like really believe in him. Okay, then you can start to take advantage.
I picked him up. I have this like thing in my 12-team league where you can pick up players, and if they don't make it to their rookie number, like 150 at bats or whatever, plate appearances, then you can keep them as prospects. So I just picked up Heston Kjerstad and made him a prospect in this league. And so I'm sure that some people will come calling, and so there probably is a price where I'd say yes, but
always
on the other hand, I'll listen. But the other thing, just to finish this up, is that from the eye test, which I don't really rely on too much, but the one thing that I thought was really impressive, and I think this does show in the numbers, is not only could he barrel for power, but he hit the other way too. So we saw him hit a couple doubles the other way. So I see that's why the strikeout rate's a little bit lower. And that combination is something I really value, because that's the type of person that can hit for batting average and hit for power. And there's not that many of that in the game. So that's the real tantalizing aspect, is the possibility of 325 or 330 from 300/25, 300/30 from Heston. But here in the short run, I'll probably take O'Hearn over him in redrafts and stuff.
I totally agree. Redraft, I would do the same thing. I think he might be nice sleeper value next year. I mean, you also got to love, like, he's lowered his ground ball rate pretty much like at every single level of his minor league stints. But I would also say the last thing on this is, in defense of everybody on both sides of the Heston Kjerstad debate, it probably is somewhere in the middle, as usually most debates are. There's extremes on both sides of, you know, he's nothing, this is what this says, or I've seen him and this is what this says. It's probably somewhere in the middle. And that's where you can end up lying. Is he completely overrated? Is he completely the real deal? Just find that middle ground, and that's probably like,
it could be 280/30 or 320/25 or something. And
he probably has wider variance, if we're being honest. He probably has the variance of, like, he could be a 230 hitter up to being a 270 hitter, you know, somewhere in there. And those high variance guys are a little bit riskier if you are a shaker and a mover, if you're a buyer and a seller. I think Kjerstad might be one of those guys you could sit on for a little bit more time. I brought up Royce Lewis, by the way.
I know,
Royce,
dude. Are you kidding me? He's hurt
yeah,
again?
I wanted to mention this. Royce Lewis has been the most exciting, player over the last month. He's scheduled to undergo an MRI on his left hamstring. That is happening tomorrow. So you're probably not going to know anything until Friday. So he's going to miss the next couple days. This is also on top of them losing Carlos Correa. But this is the type of thing that could end Royce's season a little bit early. I think Royce has solidified himself to probably being
playoffs. They need him in that lineup, man.
Yeah, and he might be back for. I really think Royce is going to open our eyes when we see his value, his ADP next season. I think he is going to be a massively high player. Like, what do you think off the top of your head?
It might be a trap.
I'm kind of leading.
He came back and hit a bunch of grand slams, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I totally forgot about the 2 ACLs." And then,
like, just a complete guess. What do you think? Where do you think?
Overvalued.
No. But like, give me like a number, like a number range.
Who was like an oft injured guy that got some? I would say like probably like 150 or something.
Oh, I think he's going to be. I think he might be top
100.
75. I think he might be in the. I think you'll see drafts, especially if you're talking, because what sets the market in FPC, those early drafts, and what are those plays usually about? The highest upside. There's a safety factor in there, but there's high upside. I think Royce,
especially because the early season ones are like best balls and drafting holes. Yeah. And you do actually care a little bit more because you could take Royce Lewis as your MI, and then you could take somebody like JP Crawford. Maybe he goes up too, but like somebody like JP Crawford, just a vanilla everyday guy as your third shortstop that can step in when Royce Lewis is hurt,
that's what I think you're going to see, and I think you're going to have inside. And
those are going to float. Those are going to float Royce up higher because of those use cases. And then people who get into, main event type stuff may not want that risk, and so it'll come back down again.
And the question will be: Is this injury going to buy back some of the value of the overpay you're going to have to do next year, or does he recover from this MRI, come back, hit some more grand slams, and now he's going top 75? So you're right; it could be a trap.
Great postseason.
Yeah, crazy postseason, but that's a bummer for people that are trying to vie for the playoffs. Speaking of which, I did want to talk. It's funny, we were talking. You're like, we're not really like a streamer show. You're right, but people are in their playoffs. You've got 10 days or so left, and you and Al will probably do this on Friday, so we don't need to tackle the weekend. I just wanted to throw a couple names out. Your opinion holds some of the biggest weight in the industry, especially on the pitching side. 2 pitchers I think that are really fascinating, and then if you've got any other pitchers you want to throw out that might be Thursday, Friday streamers for people. But Sir Gibson Long, 18% Yahoo percentage, 5% ESPN. What probably picked up in a lot of, I think, CBS leagues, he's at least like 25%. He went out this past week and he struck out 11. He has got a really nice matchup against the Oakland A's. And if you were looking at a streamer that really might be sitting out there, I'm not sure there's a better one over the next 4 days, but there's risk. There is absolute risk to it. So I'd love to get your take on Sir Gibson Long for his, it was Thursday. It looks like he's been pushed to Friday up against the A's, and your trust in streaming him.
That's, I think, my favorite streamer of the next 2 days of Thursday and Friday. He just blew the doors off the hinges when it came to, Stuff Plus. He's had such a fantastic minor league season. And I know I feel bad that, I haven't, come out here and highlighted him before. But one of the things that's kind of annoying is when somebody like, comes through at a certain times, like his AAA times were, I guess, just after I'd just done updates in the AAA data, and so, he just kind of, that happens sometimes with prospects too, where they're like, they get on fire between, after the halfway mark and before the end of the season. And so they don't get put on those updated lists at the halfway mark or whatever. Yep. So, he just sort of fell between the cracks. And I would just say that Stuff Plus loves all his pitches. And just the fact that it loves its fastballs is good enough for me, because he threw more than 20 of each of those. And that's a decent sample for Stuff Plus. So really standout fastballs, and a really great matchup. 21% swinging strike rate in his first 10 innings. Just absolute filth from him. And then, what you're looking at when you're looking at Thursday and Friday is a fair amount of TBDs. Got this Baltimore Cleveland situation that's a TBD. Some places have Ryan Pepio going on Thursday for the Dodgers, but he obviously isn't because he went last night. You're going to have stuff like Randy Vasquez. He's a guy I like for the New York Yankees. He might go 3, and then Johnny Brito comes in and steals his win from him again. So I don't know that I can recommend Randy Vasquez, even though I like him. You've got another TBD between the Giants and the Dodgers, and that's just an awful, awful TBD because that could be 13 pitchers in that one game.
TBD is going to be very popular over the next week.
Yeah, and like I can't and then there's some that I just can't recommend, like Dakota Hudson and Patrick Corbin, and you could give it a shot at Oviedo, but Oviedo is just really disastrous or great. It seems like there's nothing in between. The command is either there or it's not, and so I can't recommend that. The one name that looks like there's 2 names for me that look somewhat safe, don't have a ton of upside, but should be available and somewhat safe and are very boring. Oh, look at this. Kyle Hendricks is listed as a starter on Thursday and Friday. So
yeah, I think it was originally, it's interesting because he was originally Friday up against Colorado, but then maybe there's talk of moving him up so he would go against Pittsburgh. I don't think either one matters for me. I think I'm fine with you. I think he's a decent ratio guy that's not going to get strikeouts and stuff. But if you want to hug your ratios and maybe go for a win, does he still scare you against either one of those teams? Okay.
Yeah, those are good matchups. The 2 that I like slightly better than him are Wade Miley at St. Louis. Wade Miley to me is what you're talking about when you say Kyle Hendricks. I think of Wade Miley, like boring. Not going to strike out a bunch of guys, but probably not going to do the one like the Johan Oviedo could give you 3 innings and 6 runs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think Wade Miley will do that. And then the other one, what was the other one that I kind of liked?
TBD?
France.
Or JP France again. Well, okay. So
against the Royals, I just think it's a good matchup. He's at home.
So let me turn this because this is the one I wanted to ask you about. The percentage, he's not going to probably be available out there. But I feel like this has been a really important one for people, is Cole Reagans. And I kind of did this earlier in the week. I actually was talking to Nick Pollock, and Nick is fine with it. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because if you want to look at where has he gotten hit a little bit, Cole Reagans has been awesome. It was against Houston. It was Houston in his last start. He gave up 5 over 6. Walked a couple. He had not given up 5 earned runs actually, he had given up 5 earned runs if you combine his previous 5 starts. So Houston got to him a little bit. My only thing I'm bringing up here is if you are, this is the point of the year where it's tight. Like, your playoff run can be contingent on a pitcher getting blown up. Most people are. Are you comfortable with Cole Reagans going against Houston after everything he's done? Obviously, strikeouts are in play, but let's say you are just bracing for some of those ratios and a 6 earned run start is really going to hurt you. Is there any trepidation about Cole Reagans on Friday?
I don't. Yes, a little bit. Obviously, I mean, like you can hear my voice, but I do think that there's some variability in his approach in terms of what Cole Reagans can do. I mean, he's a 5-pitch pitcher now, so he can come back against Houston, and he's thrown the cutter more than he did in that one. He's thrown the curve more than he did in that one. He's thrown the changeup more than he did in that one. So maybe he could come back and throw more changeups or throw more curves. He's not he's not a 2-pitch pitcher. So it's not like he can't come back and do something different against Houston. And one of the reasons that I like him in terms of his arsenal is that I think that those are all viable pitches. And so I think he can come back. I'm trying to come up with the the game page for that one just to see that last start, just to see how hard they hit the ball. But what do you have? When's that start again?
It was the 16th. So I should have probably pulled that up. That would have been nice. Where he went 6. And by the way, he has gone 6 in
like he still went 6. He
5
struck
of his
out.
last 6.
Strikeouts and walks weren't bad in that one. It's all
no,
hit.
they were. It's just earned. My only point to all of this, and it's not to create fear about Cole Reagans. It's just on a Friday, there is a little bit more of a concern if you have a really close ratio thing. And this is just a tougher matchup. This is like someone was asking, like, hey, Zach Wheeler versus the Braves. It's like, you have a really good pitcher versus the Braves. You get a little bit dicey. This is later in the week. Everything about Cole Reagans screams positivity. The strikeouts are always there. 5 of the last 6, he has gone 6. There's quality starts in there. It's just his team doesn't pick up a lot of wins, and this is a team that just hit him. So that's why I think it's just worth conversing, because I think there's going to be some people that are going to have some concerns about it. Like, would they be better? Would you be better streaming Gibson Long against the A's or putting out Cole Reagans versus the Astros? I mean, you're probably not going to. I don't even know if you would get 5 out of Gibson Long. That's my concern about him. Is like maybe you can get the good ratios.
Get a win out of Cole Reagans.
These are all the questions to ask that I think it doesn't feel like those are close, but I think they might be.
I think you can get 5 out of Gibson Long, and I think you can get the win. So I would have just if there's no keeper concerns or what you're going to do the next week, or do I want to have Reagans for his next start? If there's no concern like that, just purely Thursday and Friday, I'm going to have Gibson Long over Cole Reagans because of matchup mostly.
Yeah. Last thing I just want to throw a couple of these out real quick. We don't have to get into discussions, but a little baby project prospect. Just to mention a couple of things, Ricky Tiedemann has been moved up to AAA. Not a ton of innings this year. I know that gets exciting. I will say, I think of all years, levels just don't matter. Like levels matter so much less to me than ever before because of amount of at bats. I mean, maybe I'm overstating it. I'll look in the offseason even more, but the amount, I think it's positive when players can, they can dominate the levels, but you see guys getting moved up, and I think people get all like, whoa, they're moving up. It's just more innings. Ricky Tiedemann also is rumored to be confirmed for the AFL. So rumored, confirmed. I've heard essentially he's going unless something crazy happens, which he'll be one of the best pitchers.
Something crazy could happen if he's an injury replacement on the roster for the major league team. I believe he can still be eligible for the postseason. I'm not sure about that, but they could do that. That's been used before.
Yeah, and that is a possibility. So that could
they don't seem as desperate anymore for a starting pitcher.
And Tiedemann has struggled with getting deep into games, so I think that's why you go to the AFL. He had that arm issue that was going on, so
I'm ready for next year.
Yeah, he's been moved up to AAA.
What are the results? I mean, the strikeouts are amazing. The walks are not great.
I mean, there's a little bit of like there's a Blake Snellian in him if you're looking at that. I love Ricky T. I'm trying to pull up his numbers, and everything is not working.
Well, right now at AA this year, 39.7% strikeout rate, primo strikeout rate. In fact, if you look across his work in the minors, you're talking about like a 40+% strikeout rate.
And that, I mean, he's like every outing, it's 3 innings, 8 strikeouts. He just blows stuff by hitters. I mean, he's
0.7% walk rate this year, the highest of his minor league carear.
And I couldn't be more excited about anybody than him.
Yeah, I don't know that it's so worrisome yet because for the minor leagues in terms of walks, he has 25, 29, 30, 50 walks in 38, 40, 51, 88, 119 innings. 50 walks to 119 innings. That's not great. But that's
you're doing the math.
3.8. 3.8 per 9.
Yeah, and I think that's why you also make sure you send out to the AFL, and that's why we're most likely going to see him. So that'll be a like
I mean, I'd to the AFL to push the innings, number one.
Well, also
probably
to work on some stuff. It'd probably be the biggest name pitcher since Forrest Whitley, which hopefully it doesn't go that direction.
Oh yeah,
yeah, or Nate Pearson. The other quick ones: Wyatt Langford. Across all 4 I'm taking this from I think this was a thing on Pipeline. Across all 4 tiers of the minors, Langford has a 374 slash, 480 OBP, 27 extra base hits, 29 RBIs. I'm a Dylan Cruz guy, but I can't deny Wyatt Langford has literally moved across the entire spectrum. He was here in Complex like 2 months ago, and he looks like the best hitter in the minor leagues right now. He's the number 1 first-year player. And even though I love Dylan Cruz, I think Dylan Cruz can be a monster. It's hard to deny the hard hit levels, how he's barreling, the impact that he's making.
Langford and Cruz next year in redraft leagues.
Yeah,
they're going to be in the major leagues next year.
Yeah.
What is Texas going to do?
What do you mean? Like, who are they going to move off from?
Adolis or?
Well, I mean, they have like
Leotis.
Yeah, they got Leotis out there. Like your outfield can be Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, and Adolis, and everything else can just.
Taveras is the 4th outfielder.
Yeah, he's a great 4th outfielder. Maybe Langford is more of a DH if they can mess around with the DH spot. I don't.
Is Mitch Garver
think you worry about it.
Agent?
You can just play more catcher. I mean, you got Heim. Yeah. I mean, that might be the DH, but I don't think my point is I don't think Leody Taveras is the reason that you move back from Langford. The aggressive move is insane. And he is the number 1 first-year player. And I think my buddy Eric Cross put him at number 1 overall on his prospect list. Yeah, it's crazy.
Does he have more walks than strikeouts?
I want to say that's true.
He does.
Yeah. He's insane.
Barely.
Yeah, so first-year players, you're living the rich life if you got that. The only other 2, I saw this note, Jackson Churio is the first teenager to have a 20-40 season, 20 homers, 40 stolen bases in the minors since Ronald Acuna in 2017. And funny enough, I was talking with Chris Blessing on my prospect show, Prospect One, and Blessing had said something about a month ago of like, oh, it's the best, prospect I've seen since Ronald Acuna hitting. And statistically, he's doing that, not playing in the AFL. And then finally, a guy that is also rumored to play in the AFL, kind of focusing on some AAA players. There's others we could have. Kyle Manzardo, 4 homers in his last 7 games, really picking it back up as he's missed a ton of time and going to be one of those guys that is probably going to get dinged a lot off of what happened this year, but he's having
You heard about him for AFL?
Yes, I've heard that he has every reason to go, except he has a very personal thing going on in his family.
That's right. Yeah.
With a medical issue that would be the reason I think he doesn't go. Every other reason says he should and would.
More plate appearances, finishing school, get ready for next season. Those are the reasons that he would be there.
Exactly. And he's need more at bats, having a hot start. So a couple things he'll be on the lookout for. Next week, we'll probably be able to speak on the Arizona Fall League rosters because I believe they're going to be posted on Friday. So you and I can maybe take a little peek at some of the prospects and a mini project prospect, some of the players we'll be seeing out in the Arizona Fall League next week, and a whole lot more. Al and Eno are coming up on Friday. You guys will be talking about the weekend stuff, all the latest news. We'll be back.
Final push.
I believe
it's final countdown.
I do that all the time. I think it's only 2 more next week, and then I think there's a little break, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we just always found it really awkward to do rates and barrels through the beginning of the playoffs. At least once the playoffs get going, we can kind of talk about what if anything the playoffs mean for next year or what to avoid thinking about and that sort of stuff. But and also sometimes our schedules get kind of crazy, with my schedule in particular in terms of writing for the playoffs, previews and reviews and this and that. So we just wanted to bake in maybe a couple weeks off, and then the Arizona Fall League is a really great time to get it going again because there's a lot of people there that are getting it going. There's going to be some early drafts we can talk about. We're going to do a podcast from the Arizona Fall League, so that makes sense to get the listenership back up and online again before we do that, because that's a really fun one.
Yeah,
I usually come and heckle other people's podcasts at the Arizona Fall League, and so I've already gotten the promise from a couple people that they will come and return favor. So that's always a fun reason to listen live to our podcast down there. It'll be interesting to see if Nick Pollock or any of the people I have heckled will come back and bite me in the ass.
Probably as long as it's not like a midnight recording, because they've got some late night recordings on the podcast front. But DVR is going to be there. Which
the
is
ones
cool.
where I ended up heckling.
Yeah, well, a little bit late in the night. We were all relaxing,
exactly.
so there's a little bit of heckling going on. I can tell you guys, for everybody that dearly misses DVR, which we all do, but sometimes I might.
He's going to be at the fall league.
Yeah,
he's going to be at first pitch.
I might make people miss DVR sometimes. He'll be back in a couple weeks. I don't know my state of everything, but then he will be out at the fall league, and it will be you guys there. I'll probably end up doing something with you guys in some capacity. So be on the lookout for all those things. Just kind of prepping you for things.
You're going to do the podcast with us, man.
Okay, well, good. Then there you go. We'll have the podcast. It'll be great. Hopefully everybody will be out there. We can talk about more of that when it gets there. Make sure you go to theathletic.com/ratesandbarrels. Get yourself a subscription. So I'm so excited about the Blake Snell article. So I hope you guys are as well. You can do that. Really also a late promotion for it is you want all the off-season content that's going to be coming. So make sure you're locked into that. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. And Eno and I'll talk to you guys in a couple days. Thank you guys for hanging out with us right here on Rates and Barrels.
Thanks for listening.